What's everybody? This is Yogi Chris, PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga and captain of IMC Nation, recording from Campbell, California, where I live with the founder of IMC Nation here at a place called Base One. And this is the last recycled episode from Science of Spiritual Growth. It was the third most popular episode on Science of Spiritual Growth, which is a very popular show. It had over 140 episodes. But I'm closing that show out and just recycling the top and most powerful episodes from it to Enlightened Masculinity. This is one of the earlier episodes, actually. It's the only recycled episode that I'm doing from the first 80. The first 80 episodes I did on Science of Spiritual Growth, I was teaching a guy named Yuri, and he dropped off. He wasn't able to keep up. But this was my favorite of those episodes, and obviously the audience's favorite. Got a lot of views, keeps getting a lot of views. How to influence through tonality. And, I'm teaching it to him, and I break apart a lot of the esoteric understandings that I learned from Arash Sapardibazar and some other teachers. And although it's a little bit older tech, because this is an evolving process, and so the technology of how to communicate and how to influence, it keeps evolving, especially with the culture, but we stay ahead of the culture. This episode is from about 2.5 years ago, but I think it really fits with the current paradigm of Enlightened Masculinity, a red pill show about masculinity and spirituality. And when you learn to communicate, then you can really express what's going on inside of you. You can express your development, and you can handle situations a lot better. You handle other people, handle conflicts, handle opportunities. And seeing how important tonality is in this is something I want all of you to have if you're watching this show. So if you hear me refer to Science of Spiritual Growth throughout the recording, it's because it's a recycled episode. Don't worry. This is Enlightened Masculinity Show. Leave a review, follow the show, and I'll see you soon on an upcoming episode. Welcome, everyone, to Science of Spiritual Growth. We're here talking about the mind of the human, or of everything, right? Because, what is mind if it's not everywhere, Like the whole idea of what's the golden ratio? That spiral, that sacred spiral that's like 1 plus the square root of 5/2. So it's like some ratio that, the Pantheon was made, the big domes in ancient Greek architecture. How did they discover that? That was already there before somebody discovered it. And every solution to every problem that you've ever had was already available. The answer to every question you've ever had was already there. You didn't invent the answer. You just recognized it. So that means it was already where? It was in the memory of what? How did you access that idea? Well, that's mind, right? Mind is everywhere. You also have a mind. You have an individual mind. But is that different from the universal mind? We're going to talk about it today with advanced Buddhist meditation. We'll just call him a prodigy. And reincarnated Buddhist monk Yuri Verbishchuk from Toronto, Canada. You know me, I'm Yogi Chris, PhD, and we're going to talk to you about the mind. So I hand it over to Yuri. What's your concepts of mind? What is it that you'd like to talk about today?
If anyone missed yesterday's podcast, I recommend you watch yesterday's podcast because it will give you a context of what we're going to talk about today. Yesterday in the
You got to post it so they can see it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
It's posted today, right? Okay, so, and what was I saying? Yes. So yesterday's podcast, in halfway through the podcast, I began to cry, where I realized that there was some kind of internal kind of conflict within me that I haven't resolved. And, it was painful. And through some processes that Chris ran with me, I was able to resolve a lot of it. And today, just as I'm talking to you, Chris, your voice seems completely different to me. Not objectively, but subjectively to me. You're muted.
I do that so I don't interrupt you. You mean from always, or just from yesterday? Or what do you mean?
For whatever kind of thing that I was dealing with, you were triggering it. Or not you were triggering it, but some quality that I saw in you was kind of like the mental representation that I had in my own mind. And it was clouding the way I was looking at you. And because that kind of drained itself, where I kind of resolved a lot of it, your tone of voice seems much better. Wow, what a nice guy.
Have you personally, Yuri, gone and I'm assuming, but I want to ask, did you go back and listen to the whole talk from yesterday?
Not yet.
I think that's you're gonna see some things there. I don't know. I want to watch more of my recordings. I was listening the other day, Angie's on, Dr. Ace. You know, she's a doctor now. Congratulations, Dr. Ace. And man, I was just pissed off at my voice. Like I was listening to a recording of myself. I'm like, I sound so nerdy. Like my voice is so contained. It's like squeaky. I just want to change it. You know, my voice has changed so much. I mean, I go back to, I have 700 YouTube videos and many of them are like these kind of recordings, but I have like 650 unique videos that like I recorded and edited, and go back to the first ones. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even listen to myself talk. It's so bad. The content is almost just as good. It's just great content, but my voice is just shitty. And so it keeps changing. And, you know, I can intentionally change my voice and I can kind of embody a certain kind of voice. And it creates a kind of feeling in me. And if somebody's really going through some like drama or trauma or something stimulated in them, you know, I have the capacity to be just like outstandingly compassionate. But I also have the capacity to be like an asshole. And sometimes I don't have, you know, super control of my tone. But especially when I see someone suffering, like I just get really soft, you know, I just get really soft. And yeah, so it's funny. It's like Arash Dibazar, my teacher, says, we're having a conversation of tones before we have a conversation of words. And so, yeah, the back and forth of our tones, it can quickly, you know, escalate in all kinds of directions. It can escalate into spiritual bliss. It can escalate into trance. It can escalate into argument, you know, and so bringing it back to center, you know, like Vince Kelvin would teach, the meditation means bring it back to center, you know, with the voice tones, I think is a super cool practice. So I'll hand it back over to you. I didn't mean to cut you.
Yeah, something that you just talked about with tones is something that I've been so keenly aware of when I was speaking, when I watch the videos that we post, is that every single time that I speak about something that is very like, you know, very intuitive to me, it comes across as very natural, very free flowing. The tone of voice is very like, oh yeah, you know, it's authentic. And every time that I kind of say something that is not aligned with that, or like more specifically something like, you know, that's kind of in the flavor of whatever I was dealing with yesterday and still to some extent dealing with, it comes across in my tone. And I can sense it, I can feel it. And yeah, so that's totally accurate, that we're first having a conversation with tones and then with words and then with whatever body language. So the tonality is everything. Tonality is everything.
I think probably body language comes first. If you can see the person, it's really general. But body language is like super general. Body language is like the 8 crayon color box or the 8 color crayon box. And tones are like the 64 color crayon box. So you get a lot more refinements when you have some sounds in there versus just your posture. How much could you really communicate like a mime if you didn't have at least tones? I mean, with tones, you could communicate all kinds of more things. And then like add words in there and you now have like a 400,000 color crayon box. But they're just little hues inside of, you know, a bigger category inside of a bigger category. So especially, you know, with video, like you called me out the other day for my body language, like doing this. There was no tone associated with that. It was body language, right? So, yeah, cool. You know, I love tones. Like, man, like I was out at the pub last night. I was just like, not in a great state of mind to go out, man. I just had like a whole bunch of conflict, just resolving things. And this seems to happen in my life where it's like, I'll have a day that I'm just like winning, like everything just works right. And then look out, because the next day is going to be like, nothing's going right. And then there's like the in-between days. I'd rather have a bad day because I know that the next day is probably going to be really good, and have like an in-between day, like in-between days. That feels like a wasted day. And so I forced myself to go out. It's like 11:30 at night. I podcast with Arash at 1 a.m. at my time. And I come home on Wednesdays. It's like the night I do that. And so I was like, okay, by the time I drive there, by the time I drive back, I'm only going to have like an hour there. I don't know if anybody there, I'm going to know anybody. And it's always weird, like going in as a single guy at like 11:45 p.m. Like that's the time when like all the guys are, or all the girls have left. And so there's like one girl for like 4 guys that are all talking to her. And I'm like there and I'm just like, shit. So I talked to a few people. And anyway, so I basically made it a research. I just sat like in a laboratory and I was just like watching people exuding bliss, you know, shifting universes, all kinds of things that I was doing. And ended up having some great interaction. But really just observing other people, getting references for like their voice tones. like when I'm caught in my own world, teaching online, a lot of my teaching is online, and I've been traveling this weekend, but I have to put myself out there to expose myself to this spectrum, the whole crayon box of voice tones. Otherwise, I just get. Or if I only listen to a Rashid, I'll grab some of those tones. He's super dynamic, but he's in his own universe over there. And there's been people that have trained with me that they came to me from Arash, and they're like, I trained with Arash for some time, but I got into so many fights. I was using this like confident, almost like aggressive tone that he has sometimes, and I was creating conflicts and this and that. And so if you try to take the power of a dragon and put it into the power of like a dog, the dog is still strong. It could hurt things, but it's like tries to jump off a cliff and thinks it can fly or something. Like it won't work. You can't put the power of one animal in another animal. They're designed for something. You just got to admire the power of the other animal and let it inspire something in you where you have your own power. So I'm going, and this is all related to mind, right? Because like, your tone clearly represents your emotionals. Your emotional. I was going to say emotional body. I made some. It clearly represents your emotions, right? Your language represents your mind, right? Like, so your communication totally gives you away. As soon as you communicate, it gives you away. And if you try to not communicate, your body gives you away. And this is a lot of yogis are really fooling us. A lot of people that practice yoga are really fooling the world because they have immaculate body position. But as soon as you open their mouth, you see how weak their mind is. Because they don't, so they're faking it almost. They've made their body pristine, statue, confident, just like, and then as soon as they open, it's like their voice tone is whoa, and like their vocabulary is like shit. You're so disempowered, and then you'll have the other end of things where people that are really heady and very mentally developed, and their language and whatever, but their bodies are falling apart. They got body pain. They're acidified in certain regions. They're getting cancer and shit, which you don't need. Like that's totally unnecessary. Just proper circulation. Essentially that's like the prime ingredient. Proper circulation, you'll never get cancer. Now, if you eat a bunch of diet of Twinkies on top of that, then circulation can only get you so far. But I mean, proper breathing, proper circulation, decent enough diet, you'll never get cancer. Like not until you're 150 years old. And then, I mean, that's because the Earth's surface is so polluted. And, what are you going to do about that? So, yeah, I mean, communication gives you the way. What do you guys think? We got comments rolling in. Feel free to comment. We'll read through them on Zoom first because priority if you click the link in the bio and come to Zoom. But also we'll read them on Instagram. What do you think about all that, Yuri? What were you thinking about in terms of minds? Like, what was it that you had something about, like, I'm only ever talking to you in my mind or something like that?
Every morning I have a conversation with my spiritual brother, Akash. And we were talking today, and he said that he watched our podcast, yesterday's podcast on ego. And he said that, some part of him became uncomfortable. He listened to that podcast because of kind of like the conflict that you and I were having, or he could sense like we were having a conflict between each other. And I mean, okay, like that was accurate, yes. And then I realized that actually, like I'm actually never having a conflict with you or with my mom, or I mean, no one. Like I never have a conflict with anyone. I only have a conflict within myself. And something that isn't triggering in me kind of represents some qualities that you have or whatever, and it's coming up. Or actually, it's coming up right now.
Yeah. This is the quality of the Agori. This is what Agoris do. I don't know that I'm an Agori. I'm definitely not initiated in Agora, but this is the quality of Agoris. Agoris would just really push people's buttons and kind of throw pebbles at them and just fuck with people. And people would be like, "You're not supposed to eat meat," and then Agori would like eat meat right in front of them.
Yeah, you know what? It's actually, for whatever reason, I've kind of like my nervous system has been encoded with this idea that I can't be happy because of all the misery and suffering of life. And when I see you, I just see happiness. Like I hear your tone of voice, and you're like, you're a jolly guy, and like you're smiling all the time. I'm like, what the fuck? And it totally doesn't. It just doesn't like it's not in harmony with what I'm feeling. And there's and some part of me was like, some part of me kind of wants you to listen to what I have to say because, to prove myself right, I'm right or something like that.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of like if I was in an argument with a person in a relationship, and they're not upset, and I'm upset. And I'm like, get upset with me. Why aren't you upset? Like, this is upsetting. They're like, I don't get it. And sometimes when they do get it, then they become upset. And then sometimes it turns out that I was upset at something that wasn't upsetting, whatever. And it's exactly like what you just said. Try this on. I want your take on this. Ever having a conflict with me, you're always having a conflict with the representation of me in your head. Okay? So there's really no suffering in the world. All the suffering is in your head.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow, man. Wow. Yeah. Totally. Oh, man. Yeah.
Super cool. I think Yuri went ahead. He took the leap and he purchased my book, and he donated the most out of anybody. So I raised the price, actually. He donated $6.99, I believe. And I mean, there were some cheap asses that just took the book, didn't even donate 99 cents. I was like, those cheap asses, I'm going to put it up to 99 cents. And then Yuri messages me, you should really put it for $250. That way, at least somebody will pay $25 and you'll make more. Like, I couldn't figure out how to do that with the application. So I just raised the price to $6.99. So $6.99, you get the book. And you got to know that a lot of what I teach is like AZD, Rashdi Bazaar. After I bought 8 of his products and, spent $6,000 doing private lessons with him and went to like 24 events live, just flew to Las Vegas, flew to Los Angeles, flew to San Jose. I'm from Florida. Like, it's a lot. Like, I emptied my savings, went and did that. At some point, it was like, you can just teach my methods. Just diamond mine, you can teach. You want to teach mentorship, teach mentorship. Like, because I can't teach like him. Even if I took immaculate notes and transcribed it and tried to say it exactly like him, it's not going to be the same. It's in the delivery. So it's not really about duplicating the content. Like, I am in the lineage. It's clear. I'm in the lineage. So, the book of Silent Flute, Lecture Notes 1, it's not like a novel. They're lecture notes. But as you just skim them and read them, it'll upload things. And this is the lineage of AZD. And I just applied like lots of yoga physiology and breathing to kind of understand how the nervous system works. Just kind of anchor it to some Western science. I think you'll really enjoy the book.
Actually, I meant to send $6.66 because, like, 666, not because it's the devil's number, although that's a common misconception. But in numerology, it's like humanitarianism or peace and harmony and balance and all those things. And this is another thing that I wanted to this is like another kind of like a gold nugget that I've been discovering in my life, is that I've been noticing numbers, a sequence of numbers, and looking up what these numbers mean, and it makes so much harmonious sense when I see this specific number and I feel, okay, I need to learn what this number is because this number is significant. And I look up this number and it's like, oh man, yes, like exactly. This is exactly what I need to hear. This is exactly what I need to see. This is exactly what I need to do. And yeah, so numerology, numbers, that's something that we all need to be more aware of. Do you have any experience with?
Not really. I have one client that's in the Silent Flute, and she takes some private lessons with a real estate agent. She's really, really into numerology. She won't even sell a house if it's like the wrong address. It's like, so I don't, like, I'm a big proponent of the success is the proof. Like, I think it's really fascinating. And I went into the etymology of my name, devil's bits and Christ follower and God is my judge. And so like 6667777, whatever, like that's, it's an interesting, it can make a really interesting story. Like if someone can show me where they succeeded at something because of the numbers and prove to me that it was the numbers somehow. Or like I did a consultation with Frank White, the sorcerer, and he told me things that I'd never told anybody. That was proof. That was proof to me. Like, I know I've never told anybody that stuff. So you accessed it. I don't care if you just rolled some dice and like came up with it. Like you said things that I had never told anybody. I don't care if you just like, you pray to the Jesus bunny rabbit God, like whatever it did, because you clearly proved that you accessed something that like, so then I'll listen to what he has to say and that it keeps making sense. And so that's cool. I'm sure that, I don't think numerology came from nowhere. I'm sure somebody has predicted some immaculate things, just like miraculous things with numerology. So I don't know. I don't have experience with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about getting to some comments and questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's start with Zoom, if you would.
Okay, yes, body language and facial expression. I noticed I'll become annoyed at facial expressions before even hearing the end of a sentence. Interesting. Your language represents your mind. Absolutely. This is so key. Every single time a person speaks, it's like, hey, this is my mind. Here you go. Energy colding is violent. I'm not sure what that means. Didn't you teach me something like that? Huh?
Colliding.
Colliding is violent. What does that mean?
And colliding means like a collision. Like
I mean, I know what colliding is, but energy colliding is violent. I'm not sure what the context is. Or
what is this? Dr. Ace? Dr. Ace says, energy colliding is violent. Didn't you teach me something like that? I mean, it's violent for the energy. So, like, guys, everything is violence. Like, if you don't want to be violent, stop living, because your breath is killing bacteria and you're sitting on some bacteria. And if you don't want to be violent, never open your mouth and communicate, because you're trying to, get someone to stop thinking about what they're thinking about, think about what you're thinking about, which is in conflict with their ideas. And, so energy, I don't know what the context is. Energy colliding is violent. Like, when you start seeing that everything, life is violence, but living is a violent act, then we get back to the old story of Arjuna. Is there righteous violence? There is some violence alleviates future violence. Some violence alleviates excess violence elsewhere. So, discernment is what we're seeking.
Yes. What's 777 mean? Actually, my mom was talking about this today with me, like a few minutes ago. She said that 777 means victory, success, like accomplishment. But you Google it, like everything is on Google. And Creole Sunflower says, okay, vague example. I ignored 666 and learned heavily. 1, 2, 3, 4, my day goes accordingly. It is like one of the languages of the universe. Yeah, man, this makes so much intuitive sense to me. I mean, I can't necessarily prove it logically right now, but I'm sure if I do some research and listen to what people have to say, it's like the universe is mathematics. It's just like energy, frequency, vibrations, and everything is perfectly in harmony, and every number has some kind of correspondence with nature, with energy, with something, with mental states, and certain combinations of numbers kind of represent different mental states, and if you kind of become aware of the numbers that are being presented to you, then you can kind of like learn what the universe is kind of trying to tell you, or what the energy is corresponding with your mental mentality. So it's like as within, so above, or as above, so below.
I also see Creole saying birthday is Pi Day. Happy birthday on Pi Day if we don't catch it. And I see you say something about my first lecture. Which first lecture do you mean? You mean the first one of these podcasts? And breaking through filter. Okay. That's all. No,
any Facebook comments?
Mercer, my body language is lazy. I definitely need to work on that. I am using words, but I suck at using gesture.
Yes, you need to be more animated. For sure. It's easy. Just put your hands up and just go like this. Hey.
Yeah, watch people who are good at it. Jordan Belfort's really good at using his hands. Donald Trump. So is Arash Dibasar. I would just watch a bunch about Arash Dibasar. Oh, the Instagram. I don't know. Is it you? It looks like you froze on Instagram.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
IG. We can say the same sentence 3 times and it gives 3 different meanings with our tone every time. I do this every morning in mantra practice. It's amazing. Is there anything on Facebook?
Just someone saying hello. Okay.
Hello.
Let's see. Is there anything else that would be super valuable for me, or for you, or for anyone else to hear? that completely change their lives and revolutionize the planet for millions of light years to come.
Well, that's a short order. So we have Mercer Raw, and he's saying, so language and body language have to match? No. And it's really hypnotic when they don't match. But if you are unconscious of them, then you're probably communicating things that you didn't want to communicate. So this would be the classic, the guy approaches the girl and wonders why she was a bitch to him, and it's because you were hitting on her. It's like, how were you hitting on her? No, your body was like, hey, you want some dick? How about some dick? And you got to get aware. You got to get aware of your body. You got to get aware of your tone. You got to get aware. I just did it. Creole. I heard as a kid, it's better to stay quiet and let them think you're stupid than to open it and prove you're stupid. Well, that's presupposing that you're stupid. How could you open your mouth and prove you're stupid? So I heard as a kid, it's better to stay quiet and let them think you're stupid. Okay, that's not really a question. I mean, I could go into that, but I respectfully disagree. I think it's better as a parent to equip your kid with the language so that they don't get bullied like that. Because if you let them think that you're stupid, then they're going to spread rumors that you're stupid, and then all of a sudden your persona in the public eye becomes you're stupid. And then you have a whole tidal wave of momentum of public opinion that now, if you want to change your identity, you got to combat that. It would be a lot less effort if you just did it at the beginning. Better to open your mouth and prove that you're not stupid, prove that you're smart. Like this guy was commenting on my thing. I made this post. It's a beautiful sentence. I love the sentence. It's humans are the only animal that helps every other animal. This is a really freeing statement for me because, I'm vegan, and I was never like an activist or something for veganism, but occasionally, probably like half a dozen times in my life, I've gotten like in a fight with somebody like, you're wrong, you're murdering, like, hurting animals or whatever, even though I used to like kill animals with guns. And, but then when I realized that, like, there's, humans are the only ones like mass slaughtering other animals too, but we're the only ones that are helping every animal. Some weird comments come on Facebook. Like this one guy's like, well, that's not true because we're still discovering new species. I'm like, what's your point, dude? Like, as soon as we discover them, then we start helping them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm unaware of. But then there's this guy that comes on and he starts arguing with me, like the first point. And it's just on, like, and I just call him out I'm not going to read the thing, but, it was just absurd. And it was like, then get off my post. And he's like, well, blah, blah. He came back with some other thing. It's like, I just think that you should be cleared. I'm like, why are you still posting? Get off my post. And he's like, well, clearly you're hostile now, and I can tell that you're losing the argument, whatever. I was like, go argue with someone else. I'm not arguing. Don't argue. So I forget what I was saying, actually. Oh, so it proved, because a lot of times, early in, like when I was getting my balls on Facebook and posting things that were actually my opinions, people didn't know my opinions because I was quiet all my life. So better to let them think that I was a good person or whatever they think, and then comes to find out I'm the devil when I post, feminist things or whatever. And so a bunch of haters would come on that would posts trying to, persuade me through their name calling, or which isn't really, they're bullying. That's called bullying. They were trying to bully me into their opinions. And I thought I was attacking them to try to beat them. No. Then later I realized, no. When a hater comes on, I am combating the hater for everyone else to see. That's the only reason. Because I can at any time just block them. I don't need to argue with the hater. I'm only conflicting with the person on social media or on the internet so that everyone else can see. And so that's really fun because I love demonstrating, I'm preaching strength, I'm preaching inner power, I'm preaching self-empowerment, and I'm giving away techniques, and I'm teaching for money techniques in the silent flute, which, by the way, guys, this is the last day before the price raises to $157 a month. So if you want to get on for a 1-month transformation, join today. Send me a message. So I want to demonstrate to I don't want to call them my pupils, but the people that follow what I'm teaching, that this is not the path of weakness. Yoga is not the path of make yourself a doormat, make yourself invisible in that way. Like make yourself invisible in the sense of like be able to update your knowledge, let go of the old knowledge for the new knowledge. Like as soon as you learn a new fact, you just immediately delete the old fact. Like as soon as you see it's true, You're like, oh, the speed of sound is actually 808 miles per hour. It's not 747 miles per hour. You just let go of 747. Like there's no holding on to it. That there's no ego there. But for some reason, when someone's like, well, hey, when you communicate in this way, it's doing this. They're like, no, I'm right in how I communicate, and they don't want to change. That's the lecherous ego. That's holding you back. So I like to demonstrate to everyone that follows me that, this is the path of strength. And then without being like overly aggressive or whatever. So there's like a balance. Like I just want to call the person out, reveal it to them. If they can't see it or acknowledge it, I'm not their babysitter. They're not paying me. I have had in a circumstance where a student became kind of like a hater, but while they were paying me. So I was a little bit more patient with like coaxing them. I didn't want to like embarrass them publicly. I have a feeling, I don't recall exactly, but I think one ended well and one ended bad. Like one ended like I had to kick them out. They stopped, they unsubscribed. And one ended like, oh, they shifted in realization, and I was very happy that I was a little more patient with that person. But with people that aren't paying me, I got zero patience. One time I'm telling you, hey, cut it out. 2 times, you're off. And so that's me not shutting up and not letting them think what they think. Because if I let them think what they think, they're going to think the wrong thing, and then they're going to spread rumors, and then I'm going to have a whole storyline to combat that was really, I could have just nipped it at the beginning of the telephone line, Sorry, I kind of took over there. So here, I'll hand it back over to Little Monk. I'm going to mute myself so that.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. That's nothing really to say. Every time you speak, it's like facts. And I like listening to it.
Wow. I need to unload some of my ego right now. I'm just like, no, I try. Sometimes I am ridiculous. And especially if I get to talking too long without like pausing and listening to someone else talk, I'm smart enough that I can almost quickly make sense of anything. But that doesn't mean I'm right. Just because I can make sense of it. So I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Dr. A saying, oh my God, I saw that it was funny. I shared with my coworkers, especially when you said you can't break it either. I said, because I remember he said something like, you're using superlatives in your argument. Remember, this is the statement of humans are the only animal that helps every animal. And he came back was like, you're using superlatives in your argument. Define help. He says this. And I'm like, you define help. And he was like, he came back and said, I can't make your argument for you. And I came back and said, you can't break it either. And that was a funny one. I got a bunch of people that laughed at that. So anyway, it's nowhere near the level of like Shane Smith, who's posting a whole bunch of like the male-female genetic code. Like that gets lots of shares. There's lots of lovers and haters of his ideas. And, he goes on it really strong. And like, I agree with all he says, like, and there's nothing I really disagree with. There's just some things I would word it differently. He's got his own flavor. And so,
wow.
Yeah. What's going on with you? You're having realization now.
Just as you're talking, I'm noticing that there are parts of me that are there because of the personality that my mom displayed and that kind of like the women in my life displayed. And this part of me is the reason why every single time you say, I mostly agree, or I somewhat agree, or like you kind of state that opinion, it really rubs me the wrong way. Or that kind of grinds my gears a little bit.
Grinds your gears.
It kind of get a little agitates me. And it's because of this part of me that's like a very important part in my kind of psychology. This part of me always feels like it knows everything. It knows everything. And so when you say like, no, you're like, I mostly agree with that. It's like, fuck it. What do you mean? I know everything.
Yeah. I would love to, dive deeper whenever I say I mostly agree and you're like, what do you mean? The thing is a lot of times we say like a whole paragraph. And so to say I either agree or disagree, if you said 100 words, I agree with like 80 of them. Like, what am I just, And then sometimes the thing I didn't agree with was like the first sentence, and I don't even remember what was the first thing you said. I just remember I disagreed with you. So yeah. I think it's really important either. Sometimes I even take notes when you're talking, Yuri, because I'm like, okay, I don't want to interrupt him, but that one thing I want to talk about. But then also, using shorter sentences with clear stops. Like, where does the sentence stop? Okay. So let's see here on IG. We got people rolling in with comments. Guys, the Zoom link, it makes it way easier to keep up with what you're saying. You can also catch private content. Yuri gives private content in our private Facebook group, Science of Spiritual Growth. Spiritual Growth. Go to Facebook and check it out. And let's see here. So many comments. Immerse your body. Okay, we can say the same sentence 3 times. Give it 3 different. Yeah, we heard that. And then putting a strong engine on a bike. Oh, you mean the dragon in the pit bull analogy? Damn. So language. Okay, I heard. Okay, speak what you know and speaking with confidence. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes. I wrote this once. I always like when I make a shares it. I'm like, ooh, that means I did good. And one of these posts I made, it was like, speak your truth. And I tried to do it in a Manu voice. I'll do, even though Manu's like my grandmaster. If Arash was my master, Manu would be my grandmaster. And Manu's voice would be like, speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Yeah.
Wow.
Speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Creole sunflowers. So these should all be like, podcast notes, Creole sunflower. Monk, because you are so tapped into yourself. He's tapping himself. Creole sunflower. Whoa, struggle of an empath. Ditto. Creole, I love how communicative you are. Come to the podcast. Unmute yourself. Hear you talk. She's in, I think, Louisiana. She's in Louisiana, she said. But Yogi Chris teachings lets me know that I too can be taught. Cool. That's nice. Reality is mental. Correct. Yes. 666. As above, so below, she says. Creole, agree. Creole. Vague examples. I ignored 666 and I learned heavily 1234. My day. 1234. My day goes accordingly. Okay, so it like one of the languages of the universe. Yeah, numbers is the language of the. I don't know what other languages there are in the universe. I think it's just all numbers. Shapes, maybe, but that's kind of a number. Cutting grass is violent. Hell yes, it is. Mercer, going back to the earlier discussion, does body language have to match the word language? It does not have to. And did I already answer that? It can be different. The part is when you're unconscious that your body is saying something that your words are not. And a lot of people, they either don't have the technical training to like call you out on it, or they don't have the want. They have no desire to call you out on it. Like with my girlfriend, I call it out all the time, and she sometimes calls me out on it too, because, that's the problem. You start teaching your girlfriend everything sometimes it comes back and bites you in the butt. And when you mess up, hey, you're incongruent. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And then I try to rationalize it and like use my persuasion, and I just give up. Yeah, you're right. I'm my mistake. But a lot of people just won't even call you out. And so like in my line of work, I'm selling people. I sell people all the time. And a lot of times I sell a lot of people a lot of times. And sometimes it's frustrating. Why don't they buy? Like, I know this is so great for you. Like my communication techniques, it's like, I don't even give them away here. They're so potent. And I know that a CEO of, the New York Jets or something, whoever, the owner, like some high-level people, if they listen to this, there are techniques that they can glean that from the top down will create massive impact. But it's selling them on it. And a lot of times they say no to the sale, but they don't say it's because your body language communicated uncertainty, but your voice communicated certainty. So I was confused, or your tone communicated uncertainty, but your words were really strong, and I couldn't see your body because we were on the phone or something. Like they don't communicate that it's incongruent. It's just the success. Success is the proof. So if you're not getting what you want, look at your body language, your voice tone, and your words. And I think words are the easiest gateway. I don't know. What do you think, Yuri? What do you think is the easiest gateway into you as you're joining IMC and you've been on the IMC band, crew for a couple months now and really dove in. When I dove into IMC, it was like I trickled in. I just kind of flirted around the edges and was like, hey guys, I just want to see how you're doing. I just want to, what's your cheapest product? Okay, I'll buy that one, and just distance. I did that for like 8 or 10 months before I like dove into it. But Yuri just kind of just nosedive like a swimmer. So what's your take on body language, voice tone, word? Do we do it all at the same time? Do we choose one? What's the access points, easy access points for you?
When I hear a person speaking, it's almost like I can tell whether they're telling the truth or not. I can't tell. And it's not like objective truth, like, I have objective truth, but it's subjective truth. So it's like, I can hear in the tone of voice of when it's perfect harmony. It's perfect harmony with their thoughts, with their emotions, with their, like, everything. And the tone of voice is like, this is perfect harmony. And it feels a certain way. It's like, okay, that's perfect harmony. And when a person says something that's unperfect harmony, it's like, no, you don't really believe that, or you don't really think that. So it's all in tone. It's all in the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tonality.
Yeah, as you're talking, I think I had this idea that, I think tones is where to go with it. I think because tone, I think, is the liaison between your body language and your words. If you get your tone.
But also,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's also like, if I'm doing like this, if I'm going like this, it's really hard to be passionate. Like, okay, I'm so passionate about it. Like, okay, what am I going to be passionate about? I love books so much. Oh my God, books are the most amazing thing in the world. It's so amazing. I'm not sure if that's working, but that's weird. So the body language has to reflect. Like, oh my God, I'm so passionate about books. Books are the most incredible thing in the world. I love reading books. Books are so fascinating. There's so many things you can learn about books. Books are written by the most intelligent people. And amazing.
Yeah, speaking of which, get the Silent Flute book, because they're written by the most intelligent people. Silent Flute book 1. Go down on my Facebook, you'll find the link to it, or send me a message if you want the link to it. We got Dr. Ace commenting on Zoom here. OMG, I saw that. That was the comments about. Oh, okay, sorry. I already read that. Okay, that was it. Okay, so wrapping it up here, any closing words, Yuri, while I find these last...
Yeah, I am going to post a very special video for the Science of Spiritual Growth group. So make sure that if you're watching this video, then please go and join that group, because you can't afford not to miss this value. And continue progressing on the path towards spiritual growth, the science of spiritual growth.
Yes, I agree. Science of spiritual growth is where it's at. Creole Sunflower, thank you for destroying that filter, Yogi Chris. Speak always, or people will define your existence. Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. You refer to this idea of a filter a lot, Creole. It's part of your lexicon. You really like this word. Whoa, boom, all caps. Did he really ask you to define help? Yeah, I mean, I was like, come on, dude. Like, he's just argumentative. He used the word in his post and his comments. He used the word argument like 6 times in various comments. He kept replying. Argument was part of his lexicon in the same way that your lexicon has the word filter. His lexicon was argument. Like, right? You're saying on the outside, but thinking on the inside. Inside was argument to him. I didn't want to be in his head. Like, fuck that. Like, go away. He used to be my dance teacher too, swing dance. Yeah, but he's, that was before, that was like early days, I think, of IMC. Creole Sunflowers. I had that thought when he killed that whole not speaking bullshit. Not sure what that refers to. Whoa, Mercer posted the link. He has a thing on Instagram. You can't click the link. The link's not clickable. Creole. My boyfriend checks me when my body language is on 10, but my words are soft. He tells me every time, for sure. Science of Spiritual Growth Nation, SOSG Nation, Mercer Raw. I agree. We should make it a hashtag. I say Creole. She came to the Zoom lecture. Okay. Dr. Ace, getting back on the floor. Go help those patients, Dr. Ace. You're a hero in the disguise of a pretty woman. I guess pretty women can be. I'm probably going to get some people saying. Okay. I say Creole. I'm learning from my boyfriend's other girlfriends that body and verbal communication should be in harmony. Doesn't have to match, but they should flow without conflict. It's an interesting comment. It's an interesting comment. That's something I really think to bring to the No Fucks podcast with Arash. I'm going to throw out one comment. I'm not player extraordinaire. I'm just player, intermediate. And getting better every day in every way. Getting better and better and better and better. I would say that, and you're not asking a question, but I just kind of want to throw this out because you said something and I had a thought, and you're here, so I'll share my mind with you. I don't want my girlfriend learning from my other girlfriends about her communication. She learns from me about her communication. As soon as she starts following another woman, then that woman is the center. That woman is the sun. And then your man and you are orbiting around another center. I want to be the center. So if, that's in the past when I've had multiple girlfriends, but it was more of, there's more of like a chaotic star system where we were all just kind of like swirling around each other versus having a stable center that they were orbiting around. And when we're all just swirling around each other, it's very easy for one to get slingshotted out of the system. It's very easy for collisions to happen. It's more unpredictable. There's too much of that chaos. So, but that might not be what you were implying. You know what I mean? So that's cool. If you're learning to improve because I'm sure if you're learning something from them, then I'll bet they're probably learning something from you too about some quality that is probably just unconsciously competent to you. You just don't even know you're doing it. But they see you and they see a reference for it and they're like, oh, that's how to say hello. That's how to give an acknowledgement. That's how to give a hug. That's how to cook or whatever it is. That's how to do something, how to be something, how to behave. Okay, I watch everything. What did she say? Mind over matter. I'm working on tone. How can I work on my tone? I watch everything. I learned that through observation, the whole body language thing. Okay, so the question in there is, how can I work on my tone?
You can, this is a technique that I learned from Arash on the podcast, is that any tone that you want to convey, it has a corresponding body language. So let's say I want to convey the tone of scarcity. I would kind of go like, there's not really that much left. There's not really that much left. This is the body language. If I want to convey certainty, man, it's absolutely facts. Like, this is the truth. I'm telling you, this is how it is. This is how it is. Certainty. If I want to convey secrecy, well, secrecy would be something like, Chris, he's a yogi, something like that. Fear has a corresponding body language. Everything has a corresponding body language. So change your body language and you will change your tone.
This is a fascinating subject. I love this subject because I'm working on my tone just always, I think it's super important. First, before you even work on your tone, you got to be able to hear your tone. You got to be able to listen to your own tone. Otherwise, you're fucking with the dial on the radio without even hearing how the sound comes out. And so how are you gonna measure? How are you gonna calibrate the dials until you hear the output? So you got to be able to hear your own voice. Then, and I go really deep. I haven't been asked this exact question. After this, I'm going to make a video for my silent flute program about it. But I would say, first, obviously look at references. Find someone that's animated, entertaining. Watch their tone fluctuations. Try to pretend with different accents. Play with different accents. It's me. I'm Italiano. I can use a different voice tone when I'm Italiano. And Yuri Vorbestuck, when we are in the motherland, then, just ridiculous kind of stuff. Or I'd be like, would you like a cup of tea? It's about 4 p.m. Somehow I was just like an Indian British person there. I kind of mixed my accents there. So playing around with different accents, I think, Jim Carrey's great with tone. And, and then there's just a whole mindset around it. Like, what are you doing with your tone? Your tone is to create an effect. The words are the spell, but the tone is how you cast the spell. Get it? So that's all I'm going to give you for now. I'm going to go make a private video for my group because I'm saving some of the content for them. I gotta make sure that the people paying me get something really special. But I think just looking at references, play with accents, be able to listen to your own sound. Listen to your own sound. And, you really see the potency of it when you intervene on your sound. Like if a situation is not going the way you want and catch that it's your tone is creating it. Yeah, your body language and whatever. But if we're looking at tone, tone is creating that situation. And as soon as you notice that it's not going the way you want, intervene by just changing your tone. Just be ridiculous with it. Just change your tone and watch how the situation changes. And start to create this connection between, the effect, my tone, effect, tone. There's like an invisible string between my tone and the effect, tone and the effect. And so just start to control all the effects around you with your tone. But first you got to see the connection. So I'll keep pointing it out because you see more when I point it out. Like in my group, I keep saying, you're saying something to yourself. You're saying something to yourself. What are you saying to yourself? You're saying something to yourself. And at first you're like, I'm not saying anything to myself. I don't know. I can't hear it. I don't know. But there's enough testimonials of people that are like, after 10 or 12 times of you saying that, I finally saw what I was saying to myself. It was just invisible to you, you know? So there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are just invisible to you because for 20, 30, 40, however many years, you've not been taught. You know, I was tripping out the other day. Or this morning, I was thinking, because there was an AZD teaching in, what was it? It was in, maybe it was in a mentorship lecture. I forget where it was. I think that's kind of why he gave me permission to like teach, because originally, Diamond Mind, you were not allowed to teach Diamond Mind teachings. And you weren't allowed to talk about that. If it got back to him that you were talking about Diamond Mind teaching, even to other people in Diamond Mind, you'd get kicked out. And whatever, like, I kind of disobeyed that anyway, because of course I taught my girlfriend or whatever, because I need her to come up in awareness. Like, I can't be sitting on Mount Olympus and she's like farming in the foothills. Like, no, come up with me. So of course I taught her. And what was I saying? Oh, he said something like, it was essentially like if you were a kid, a child, and your parents were talking to you about like fairies and genies and auras and chakras and ghosts and spirits and just talking to you about these things. Not like indoctrinating you per se, but just like indulging your fantasy in these sorts of things. You would start to develop the eyes to see. And then 20 years later, we have people that see ghosts or whatever, and they don't know why. It's probably because your parents were talking about it when you were a kid. And so you started looking for something that wasn't able to be seen. And so you found it. So why was I saying that? I don't know. Look for the effect of your voice tone. Your voice tone is affecting all situations, right? Okay. So that's the end for today, I think. It was a super rich podcast, super long too, so we'll try to keep them shorter. And join Science of Spiritual Growth Facebook group, private group content. Yuri's going to give some gold this weekend. Every weekend, Yuri gives gold. And I appreciate you all joining today. Send us the message. You know the description's all in the bio. And we'll see you every weekday at 12 p.m. Also, no Enlightened Masculinity podcast this Saturday because I'm traveling and teaching. But I'll see you with Akash on Sunday. See Yuri again.